G'day guys and gal. If you've been following 40k for a while, you may have heard the term the Star Child, the aspect of the Emperor he shed from himself before facing Horus. The part of the Emperor that contained his emotions and most of his humanity. However, that is old lore, which begs the question, does the Star Child still exist? Is there a powerful piece of the Emperor sitting in the warp, waiting for its time to return? If so, what actually is the Star Child and how could it be involved with a genuine Emperor resurrection? Before we get started, it's Friday baby, that means new major mini release. As we're returning not one, but two fan favorites to the range, Kitten and the Shadow Warden, fully remastered, better models, better detail, better proportions, better everything. The old Kitten and Shadow Warden was some of the earliest models to enter the Major Mini range, and they were pretty cool, but they just became a bit too dated. Bad proportions, bad modeling. I didn't have the quality control I do now, so I thought let's just bring them back in their full glory. Kitten V2 features a custom base, some fun classic armor ornamentation to make him stand out, and a wickedly sick spear. The Shadow Warden is what I envisioned the concept art to be, a more solid model, better details, and an awesome HQ unit. If you've bought either of these models before, you'll get an email giving you a 30% off discount, so keep an eye out for that. If you can't find it, then you probably unsubscribe from the mailing list, you fucking retard. Simply reach out to us and we can give you the code manually. On top of that, there is only 48 hours left before the Omega and his Honor Guard are gone for good. The coolest mini in the range, easily. Don't miss out on him or any of the rest. Link to everything is below. Today we'll go over the Star Child, its origins, what it actually is it canon or not, and how could it return in the current setting. Let's get into it. The Star Child is easily one of the coolest bits of 40k's lore because of how much potential the plotline has. The Star Child first appeared ages ago, when GW first wrote about the duel between Horus and the Emperor. Basically, before their duel, the Emperor shed a big piece of himself that contained his emotions and most of his humanity, as he knew the fight with Horus would require 100% of his focus, and he could not afford a single moment of hesitation, horror, or fear. Now you may be like, dude, this is the Emperor, surely he is above those emotions. But imagine you're about to face one of your favorite sons, who is now this demonic avatar and has ruined your dream. You also need to be in the same room and look at the mutilated corpse of Sanguinius, your actual favorite son. And then you need to beat this giga-powerful Horus while all four Chaos Gods are watching and laughing at you and screaming and shit. Even for someone like the Emperor, that would be a lot. So the idea is that if he was just this cold, focused being with no moral boundaries, it would maximize his chance of victory. The Emperor genuinely thought he was going to lose, like he was very matter-of-fact about it. So he basically just wanted to do his best. So the lore that the Emperor was a bit of a sentimental pussy isn't accurate. He would have been able to bring himself to kill Horus regardless, he was super pissed off after all. It was more so just not getting distracted by the 5,000 horrifying things during the fight. Now the Emperor is a single being made up of many aspects. Often these aspects can be shed from him and have their own sentience. Likewise, he can also bring in other aspects to the forefront. He has aspects of war, of peace, of science, of leadership. When the Emperor changes appearance and size, it isn't him just pulling an Ant-Man. He is displaying different aspects of himself. The reason he is so fucked up now and can't just be healed back to normal is because during his fight with Horus, most of his aspects were killed, badly mauled, and separated. So the Emperor is now this scattered mess of aspects that no longer fit together properly, thus why he is so munted. The aspect the Emperor shed before his fight with Horus, which was everything innocent, pure, vulnerable, and sensitive, was cast into the warp and became the Star Child, said to be represented by a child rowing the currents of the warp in a reed boat. The idea being that over time, the Star Child would grow in power until one day it could return, potentially in an Emperor resurrection plot. Then the lore got really fucking weird around the 90s and early 2000s. There was the Sensei, biological children of the Emperor, as well as the Illuminati. Then the Sensei and the Illuminati were trying to do random shit, and the Star Child was involved. It got so convoluted and full on that GW did a bit of a retcon, declaring the Illuminati a Zinchian cult called the Cult of the Star Child, then had the Salamanders come in, kill the Illuminati, and then most of the Sensei, leaving only a handful alive in case they wanted to do something with them in the future. The Star Child plot was overall abandoned for years, leading many to believe that the Star Child was no longer canon. Sometimes it would occasionally be referenced, and I do believe there was a non-canon 40k licensed game that had the Star Child as the focus, and the ending was the return of the Star Child. I could be wrong though, help me out in the comments. However, then GW was like, suck my penis, and have fully officially made the Star Child not only canon, but likely about to emerge in the setting in a big way. They did actually word for word say suck my penis, trust me, I was there. I didn't suck it though. See, with the recent End and Death books, we got play for play the scene where the Emperor creates the Star Child, and it was pretty straight up. In the recent version, the Emperor really wants to beat Horus, so he's ascending to become a god called the Dark King. Now this is a bad thing. The Dark King is a chaos god and would basically obliterate the galaxy. Better to fight and lose as a man than win and destroy everything as a god. The Emperor is stopped by a Lannis person before he was able to confront Horus. It's actually a pretty awesome scene. The Emperor is this gigantic black orb, surrounded by the puppeteered husks of his custodies, who he doesn't even realize he has killed with his aura. He speaks to Alanius via one of his custodies, pretending it's the custodian speaking on behalf of the Emperor, but every time Alanius pisses off the Emperor starts speaking in first person through the custodian instead of as if it was the custodian speaking on his behalf. He also says he didn't stop because of compassion for Alanius, but because the statistics of Alanius being in that place at that time was so slim that had to be some hectic cosmic fate moment. A moment worth stopping for. Alanius convinces the Emperor that blowing up the galaxy is a bad idea, so the Emperor banishes the Dark King power from himself, returning to a very powerful but ultimately mortal form. Then, to give himself the best odds, when the Emperor banished the Dark King from himself, he also removed his nobility, hope, compassion, vulnerability, and all those other human aspects from himself and cast them into the warp as well. It's literally called the Star Child in the book, and the Emperor makes it very clear that his intention, after beating Horus, is to reclaim the Star Child back into himself. Obviously, this doesn't happen. So the original lore regarding the Star Child is 100% canon, but does the Star Child still exist? After all, the warp is a nasty place, and a glowing kid in a reed boat doesn't really sound very well equipped to handle it. Well, yes actually, the Star Child has become a reoccurring theme in the recent 40k books. See, when the Great Rift opened, the galaxy was flooded with warp energy. This has empowered chaos for sure, but it's a bit of a blanket effect. All psychers are now stronger as well, including loyalist ones, which is why you have people like Mephiston wielding the power of a Primarch. It also greatly empowered the Emperor, and there are many people that are getting visions of a golden infant rising from a throne of light. These visions freak out Chaos, who are actively attempting to stop them and the Star Child. The lore also references the Tzeentchian cult that was LARPing as Star Child fanboys, as well as the Illuminati that were destroyed by the Salamanders. So it's making it clear that all the wacky old Star Child stuff is canon as well. But the bigger question, so what? What does the Star Child actually do? How powerful is it? How could it tie into an Emperor resurrection? Well look, we haven't had a narrator come out and lay it all out for us. However, many people believe, and it's looking more and more likely, that the Star Child is the one doing a lot of the heavy lifting over the last 10,000 years. Stuff like living saints, the faith-based power of the Sisters of Battle, and the Emperor-given miracles and visions are thought to now come from the Star Child rather than the throne-bound Emperor. The Throne Emperor is a broken mess of many different aspects, who is putting all of his might into keeping the Webway Gate under Terra closed, keeping the Astronomicon lit, and keeping chaos at bay. He is really busy. The Star Child, on the other hand, is free to travel the warp, unbound to the throne or the Emperor. It has been growing in power, as is the nature of emotions and belief in the warp. The Emperor is the most worshipped god in the galaxy, with him being many people's hopes and dreams. The Star Child is literally the Emperor's hopes and dreams manifested, so it would be massively empowered by all of that. Likewise, when Guilliman was poisoned by Mortarion and was dying, it is said the Emperor pulled his aspects together to focus long enough to revive Guilliman and burn Nurgle. Although not super explicit, I believe that the Great Rift has given both the Star Child and the Throne Emperor enough power to temporarily merge and perform acts of immense power. For example, literally burning a Chaos God. It is quite nice to think that humanity wasn't just praying to this uncaring corpse god for 10,000 years, but there was actually a being of love and hope listening to their prayers and doing what it could to help them. There is a reason living saints are so extra. Why are they angels with literal fucking rose petals that materialize around them, rather than being all scary and skull-like like the Throne Emperor? But how does this tie into an Emperor resurrection plot? Well, the general idea is that if the Emperor has his body healed, his aspects healed and remerged, and then something can take his place on the throne, he should have a pretty good shot at resurrection. The issue is that that is all easier said than done. Now, we do know that if enough effort is put in, the Emperor can temporarily become lucid, such as when he spoke to Guilliman and then later when he saved him, but it's temporary and it doesn't sound fun for the Emperor to do. The old Illuminati and Sensei lore was actually centered around a plot to use the Sensei as biological fuel, mixed in with the Star Child to revive the Emperor, so they seem to have the body and soul aspect down. But there is something wrong here. So the Emperor does not want to be revived. All attempts in the lore have been sabotaged, often indirectly by the Emperor himself. The Emperor also created the Terminus Decree, instructions to the Grey Knights that no matter what, the Emperor is not allowed to get off the throne, and if he tries, they are authorized to put him back by any means necessary, including going to war with the Custodian Guard. Does the Emperor know something we don't? Well, yeah, he probably knows a lot we don't. However, I don't think it's actually too much of a mystery, to be honest. There are multiple genuine resurrection methods in 40k, many of which have been discussed in regards to the Emperor, to bring bring him back to some sort of life. Some are just hectic revival machines, but they often have a catch, i.e. whatever you revive ends up with Down syndrome or something. The resurrection of the Emperor is also super complicated, as we discussed. I believe the Emperor is so anti being revived not because a genuine resurrection is a bad idea, but because the odds of doing it properly are so low, and best case, a retarded Emperor comes back who can no longer complete his core functions on the throne, and worst case, some insane abomination returns, a screaming Emperor who is in so much agony that he spreads nothing but misery. In both of those cases, the Grey Knights would definitely want to slay the Emperor and put him back into his skeletal form on the throne. On the other hand, if the resurrection was handled perfectly, the Emperor would probably be able to talk the Grey Knights down from attacking him, as they would be able to see he wasn't a psychotic abomination. So either way, if he was to be revived, it's probably a good idea getting 1,000 psychic warriors rushing in to make sure it was done right. Or if you believe one fan theory, the Emperor needs to devour the souls of the Grey Knight Order as the final piece to his return, with the Terminus Decree acting like a bait, which would be pretty dark. Regardless of how it happens, it's very clear the Star Child plays a key role in the Emperor's future and may have played a massive role in the previous 10,000 years. The child was often described as this incubating thing, like the Emperor throwing a seed into a forest. It has had 10,000 years to grow, and by every account, it has grown, likely into the most powerful aspect of the Emperor there is. Either way, I'm very keen to see how the Star Child plot continues. I'm a huge slut for anything Emperor related, and I ain't ashamed to admit it. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up Kitten, or the Shadow Ward, or the Omega, or why not all of them? Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more starry content. Join the Discord for more memes that I'll see you on the next one. Peace.